From Adversity to Abundance, hosted by entrepreneur and seasoned real estate investor Jamie Bateman, is the ultimate guide for active and passive investors seeking clarity, mental fitness, and the confidence to make inspired decisions in the world of real estate. With a decade plus of investing experience across various niches and a background as a combat veteran, former Army officer, and multi-million-dollar mortgage note company owner, Jamie brings a wealth of knowledge and inspiring stories to each episode. Through weekly episodes featuring insightful interviews with industry leaders and solo explorations of mindset and strategy, listeners will uncover actionable advice and tips to overcome challenges and build lasting financial success. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting, From Adversity to Abundance is your roadmap to turning obstacles into opportunities and achieving financial freedom.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the From Adversity to Abundance podcast. I am your host, Jamie Bateman, and today we have with us Matt Stevens, the franchise guy. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Jamie. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun conversation. I know oftentimes our discussions on this show are largely centered around real estate, and we're definitely going to talk about some of your experience in real estate, some of the challenges that you've faced, and maybe some of the not so great moments you've had in real estate, but also get into kind of the mindset of seeking opportunities wherever they may be. Quite frankly, neither you nor I know exactly where this conversation is going to go. So for the listener who may not be familiar with you, who are you and what are you up to today? And what is some of the abundance that you're living in right now?
Yeah, I am the franchise guy. I've been in franchising since 1988. And the abundance I'm living in now is really focus on the freedoms of people, power, purpose, and money. And so, for a number of, and by power, I mean control of your schedule and your focus. So I've reached a point where I try to take off a week every 2 months. It's been successful for years at a time and unsuccessful for years at a time, but okay. I do work to take off every Friday so I can have that time. And the abundance is, my youngest daughter now just got accepted to college. We're going to be able to foot that bill. Nice. And I have a plan for the future. So I think to wake up in the morning and feeling comfort, a little bit of positive stress that you still have to get up and do things. You still got to work. You still got to endeavor towards something, but understanding that if you employ the behaviors that generate results, is in your discipline, then you can get the results you want.
I love it. I was just talking yesterday about how sometimes I think stress gets a bad rap these days because stress can be a very good thing, and it can cause growth and effort, and a little bit of anxiety might be okay. It might mean that you actually care about what you're working on, but that's a separate episode. I completely agree. Having that financial abundance gives you a peace of mind and certainly that stability factor. I love what you just touched on. So let's figure out how you got there. Not that you've I don't think any of us will ever arrive, so to speak. But let's talk about how you got to this level of abundance. Let's jump back into your backstory. The show is called From Adversity to Abundance. Obviously, you've been through some adversity, particularly in real estate. So I'll let you decide where we're going to start with your backstory. Where would you like to start?
Sure. I think this is. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, at the end of a dirt road with 2 propane tanks in the front yard. So, but I was the youngest of 4 in a very loving family. My parents were married for 64 years when my father passed away. My siblings are all fantastic and wonderful people, and we all get along marvelously, and we joke. It's laughter all the time. So I'm extremely lucky in those things. Kind of the first change for me was when I was 19 years old. I transferred. I went to freshman year in school in Florida. I transferred to a school in the Carolinas.
Mhm.
And while I was walking those hallways, I saw an ad for summer work.
Okay.
And actually, it wasn't necessarily work. It was to run your own business.
Mm.
And I was in the mindset that I'm going to say yes to everything.
Mm.
Now, if there's a school function where you can ride a horse on a farm, I'm going to do that. If there's a canoe race, I'm going to do that. I just said yes to everything, and that's exactly how it went. Well,
let me guess, was it a painting franchise?
It was in painting, and it changed my life.
I guessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I did not have that information up front.
Sorry about that.
No. I was curious because I remember seeing a bunch of those painting franchise offers back in the day.
Yeah, when I got into it, there were 67 of us, if I remember right, in New England and Canada, just kind of shooting from the hip. But there were some real established, processes in place so that someone with my naivety and ignorance could do well.
Right.
And so they trained us on situational leadership. They trained us on a sales program. They trained us on how to manage others. They trained us on getting our credit lined up at the paint store. They trained us on so many different things and how to be in the moment and how to make it happen. And I learned terms there like bob and weave. You just make it happen, right? Sure. And look for the duck. The duck is the one who flies the highest, right?
Nice.
And these were Canadian terms, I thought at the time. I think they still might be. But anyway, that proliferated. And, I ran a 5,000-hour business in my first 3 months. If we take that industry and translate those hours to today's dollars, that's about a $500,000 revenue in 3 months. And it was just phenomenal. And you just had to get things done. I remember falling asleep in a well-lit room at 3 a.m, fully clothed. That's how exhausted I was, right?
Wow. Right.
But yeah, that was the start of it. And it just grew from there. So that started at I was in training in my 20th birthday. I'm now 58.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you mentioned the naivete and, I think ignorance, you said, and that's a good way to put it, but also you had, I'm assuming, a good bit of energy to be able to put in those kind of hours. And there are a lot, I guess my point is there are a lot of traits and characteristics that young people bring to the table, even though they may not have the experience and the relationships and whatnot, the career establishment built up yet, but they've got a lot of traits and positive attributes that they bring to the table. So, and that's where the franchise needs that, right? They need that young talent and energy, right?
They do. And we would another saying we would use is, hire for attitude, train for skill. You can work with the right attitude. You can never, the wrong one, you need to get rid of them. So I also remember, I would do things at age 20 that adults wouldn't do. For instance, we didn't have SEO back then, paid for marketing was quite expensive. So we would put signs up and then I would cold call every single weekend until I got 10 estimates lined up. And in rural New Hampshire, houses can be a third of a mile apart easily, just the driveways into the house.
Sure.
And so it would take me roughly 6 to 12 hours every weekend of just going on, knocking on doors and all these rejections. But I'd get about one estimate scheduled per hour. That was the average. And I'd mark off the streets. I had a big map of Cheshire County, New Hampshire, and I'd mark off the streets and I'd say on this street, I was 2 for 21. On this street, I was 1 for 63. And on this one, I was, 4 for 49. And I kept that. But it paid off. I knew the behavior that would generate the results I needed. And I was rookie of the year that year. I won some other tenacity awards. The next year I came back, I was franchisee of the year runner-up. But it just changed everything about my path. And it gave me so many references of what must be done and the mindset you have to be in to just get there from here. And it's worked out wonderfully. Yeah.
I do think persistence is so much more powerful in the long run than any talent or, even skill that someone can develop. But let's fast forward a little bit into some of the adversity. It sounds like, I know that was challenging for sure as far as working that hard and getting all those rejections and whatnot, but it doesn't sound like you faced a ton of really heavy adversity in the early days with the franchise. Where would you say things started to take a turn for the worse with maybe some financial challenges and real estate investing challenges?
Sure. In my late 20s, I'm a late night guy. I always have been. And I would follow Carlton Sheets and Ron LeGrand and all the others. And,
Yeah.
and the theories and the things they promoted are legit. And at the time, anyway, I don't know if you still can get a property with nobody down, but we certainly could then.
Oh, yeah. You can, but that's a whole different discussion. I wouldn't really advise it in most cases, but.
Okay. I would walk away from the closing with a check in hand. I mean, I didn't think that was possible until I studied and did that stuff. Well, so I had 14 properties, and in a period of about 8 months or so, 2 of them burned down. Not burned down to the ground, but burned out. And that created some challenges. And, I was part of the Real Estate Investment Association in Central Ohio. I knew this stuff happened. And I found that, at least in my case, I had a friend doing this in Kansas, and he went to his insurance agent who said, oh yeah, we'll get that taken care of. It was a friend of the family. He bought the property long ago or a few years ago for like 60 grand, and he ended up getting a 100 grand check, and then he sold it to a rehabber for 10 or 15 grand. I mean, it wasn't arson, but he made out. He was made whole and then some. Yeah. Right? It wasn't arson on his fault.
Because a lot of times the insurance company, it's the premiums or the policy is priced for the cost to rebuild or whatever it's called versus the actual as-is value of the property prior to it burning down. So sometimes that's a lot more than what the property was actually worth. So, and then he was able to sell it as well. So that's right. Well, that's pretty sweet for him.
Yeah, it was a catalyst for him, frankly, in his life. And this happened by a Molotov cocktail. It wasn't in the best community in the area, but it was a nice duplex, before it burned down. My insurer said, no, that's fraud. We're not going to do that. So, and the thing is, I only owed like 43 grand on it. They could have paid that, and then I could have sold it. A rehabber had given me an offer of 10 grand. Well, they said, no, we're going to rebuild it, even if it costs double that.
Wow.
And so we got into the whole rebuilding thing, and then my builder had some issues, and he left the job. 13 months in, he wasn't halfway done.
Wow.
And the rent payments ran out from the insurance company. The builder took off. I had a half-done property, and I just let it go into foreclosure. Wow. So the insurer lost. They paid $100,000+. The builder lost because of whatever, all that, and I lost big time.
Right.
And the rehabber who offered me 10 grand for the shell lost because he wanted it. So everybody lost because of that, what I thought very nonsensical effort. Well, here I am now with a foreclosure on my record. During that time, another one burned out, and it wasn't a place I visited often, and I didn't get news from it, and it was vacant. And in that one, the insurer decided they weren't going to pay at all. And we went to court and found out that they were going to win that argument.
Wow.
So I was out there as well. And I knew, all right, this stuff's going to be on my record for at least 7 years, but it just created some real challenges. There are some other things in there too that folks who own these properties may not know. At least where I live, the first 10% check that comes from the insurer goes to the city, and they hold on to it until that property is done.
Really? I've never heard of that. Interesting.
So the city was holding a $7,700 check, which at the time for me wasn't peanuts.
Right.
And I was talking to my attorney, and he said, Matt, I've worked with the city, and they said, if you can find a permit that was pulled, we can get that money. And I scoured for an entire weekend, and I found this little slip of white lined paper, much like that.
Yeah.
And I cut above it and below it, and it had a bunch of digits on it. I had no idea what it went to. And I sent that message to my attorney, and he took it and he said that was it. So luckily I got the $7,700 back.
Wow. Yeah.
But that wasn't a great experience. I ended up selling my final property in 2017. And actually for a few thousand less than I paid for it in 1998.
Wow.
So things had changed there. So in the end, with all my real estate exploits, I ended up negative about 50 grand.
Okay. This was across all the properties that you had.
Across everything. It could have been much worse. It could have been far better.
Right.
But I took the lesson, and I wouldn't. I would explore it again in the future. I think there's great advantages there. It would just be in a different way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to. I say this often on the show, so I don't want to go into it too much. But I don't think there's any, perfect real estate or perfect asset class or perfect investing strategy or perfect business model that certainly is for, there's definitely not one size that fits all, right? And even for one person, I think you have different seasons in your life, and one, whatever strategy is appropriate at this time may not be appropriate in 10 years, for example. And I've certainly lost money in real estate, and is the stock market better than real estate? Just because that's a common, comparison. Well, it's not yes or no. There's so many variables, and it really depends on your circumstances and your specific approach within real estate, your specific approach within stock investing, for example. So there's not one size that fits all. It's very personal, and I appreciate the fact that you don't rule out real estate entirely. It sounds like, is that right?
Yeah. Absolutely correct. There's so many ways. There's so much money out there, and there's so many ways to make money in real estate.
Absolutely.
And you just have to find yours. I found that I personally am better, like I was in my first painting business. If I can exude behavior every day that goes out and gets results, that's me. That's my wiring. And in real estate, that
really
may or may not be the case with the stock market.
Yeah.
So if I can behave in a way every day that gets results, I'm very comfortable with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I mean, I still have some rental properties, and I still like rental property investing, but this is one reason I've largely pivoted over to buying mortgage notes, because then we're not dealing with the property directly very often. The property is our collateral. It is a very important factor in our approach, but it's not our focus. And I'm not managing with mortgage notes. I'm not managing, as they say, tenants, toilets, and trash. It's we're more like the bank, getting cash flow if it's a performing loan. But that's one reason I really have focused on mortgage note investing, because the property can be a real pain. So fast forward, I mean, I guess, overall you lost 50K, but I mean, we're glossing over a lot of, I think, pain and struggle that you went through over time as well. How did you pivot from there? What did you learn from there? What was your approach after really I guess we could say a failed or at least difficult experience in real estate investing?
Yeah, I doubled down on my consultancy, frankly, maybe even tripled down on it. I just said, all right, this is going to be what it hasn't been in the past. And I placed a lot of people over the years into franchises. And I was running it as a business, but I was very distracted by a number of things on the side. One was real estate, one was board memberships, and so forth. And I just said, all right, I'm going to end all that. I did. Sold my last property, dropped out of each board, and just
these were boards. Sorry to interrupt. Boards, like for what type of boards?
These were advisory boards for small businesses.
Okay.
Some of them were nonprofits.
Gotcha.
And the goal is they just wanted a different perspective, and I was that guy. I wasn't being paid to be on the board. I was simply adding perspective, and they were sharing their perspective from their businesses with me.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really valuable point, just to point this out, is that there are many times I think we need to really, as business owners and investors, focus. And it's not that being a board member, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not that was a bad thing. It sounds like you were adding value and you were doing a good thing if you look at it in a vacuum. And real estate investing, we already talked about that. It's not necessarily a bad approach by itself. But in your case, I think it just sounds like they were hurting what your results could have been on the consulting / franchise side because of opportunity costs. Your energy and your time were spread out, spread too thin. Am I on the right track?
It really was that. With the properties, I was doing a lot of work for them on the weekends for the boards. It wasn't every night by far, but it was a night a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that was taxing. It was
Yeah.
it was of high reward,
Mm.
but it was also mentally taxing and physically taxing to spend my time on the weekends on the properties.
Sure.
So, my last property that I sold in 2017, we had a freezing February in Ohio, and I had a pipe burst in a property. And when I went out there, this is the one that I had owned the longest, actually. Okay. And I found long ago before I bought it, someone had replaced a copper pipe with a plastic one.
Gotcha.
And we had to tear apart the floor to find that out. And I said, all right, I think I want to move on to something else.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the board memberships were highly valuable. And again, I'm not ruling that out. I'll certainly go back to that. And I've been requested to be on some in the meanwhile. But I just thought this was about 2017. I was going to put my focus back into my business, and my results in my business skyrocketed thereafter.
So from a kind of personal standpoint, before we dive into how your business skyrocketed, and you can get as specific as you are feel like, and based on how comfortable you are sharing, but from an income or asset standpoint, or just overall business success standpoint, what was, if you look back from college to that point where you got rid of the real estate, you got rid of the board memberships, and you doubled down on your consulting business, what was the trajectory of your financial success?
It was retire at 65 and have a modest income.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was work, it was work 4 to 5 days a week, work 40 hours a week and do that. I mean, I haven't this has all been done out of my home. I haven't left my home in years, I'll say. Okay. Right.
Nice.
So that's another enjoying part of this.
Sure.
Another benefit of it. But, I had a lot of capacity intellectually to deal with the subject matter of franchising and startup and establishing and setting up a resale and what to learn for expectations and how to manage that. And I thought, all right, well, let's see if I can double or triple the number of people I can at least work with each year, and we'll just see what happens. I love helping people. I love being even the smallest part of their story. This is a journey. We have no idea what's happening tomorrow. We have no idea what that person we just passed on the street is going through. Right. We're all just out there trying to figure out our path and do it the best way we can. And I said, what role can I play in other people's lives doing that while enjoying it myself? Yeah. And so I ended up operating a lot more on marketing. I spent a lot more time on the phones, and I was just able to work with a lot more people, and that's when my results changed.
Okay. So how long, what did things look like over the following, say, 5 years after you kind of instituted that focus?
Yeah, there was a first period where my results from 1 year to the next tripled.
Wow.
And that maintained, and then that again doubled. And that has maintained. And so we're talking now 6x versus what they were in 2016. Okay. And what it means is I actually had a candidate reach out to me last week. He's golfing with a buddy of his that he's been part of this team for a while. And it just came around to the subject. And it so happens the buddy I worked with 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Small world.
And that person's, 3 states away. And he said, Matt, is your outreach, is your grasp that large, or is it just that small of a world? And I said, probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, right.
But it's allowed me to really, it's not a transactional approach anymore. And I think for a while there for me, it kind of was.
Okay.
It's really getting into the nitty gritty. It's having deep, conversations about consequences with people in their world versus their goals. Okay. And it's a much more enjoyable experience for me. And I think it is, by the comments I've received, a more enjoyable experience from the candidates I've worked with as well.
That's really, in today's environment, just with everything being remote and all the AI talk and AI use, and that's refreshing to hear, and it's in some ways counterintuitive, but in some ways not surprising that you're focused, the focusing on relationships and the quality of conversations and the depth and I guess it sounds like empathy, honestly, is what you're employing, because you're putting yourself in the shoes of the client slash potential client and really kind of understanding their journey. And it's interesting to hear that it's also been more a more positive experience for you as well. So by taking this non-transactional approach and going deeper and making it more relationship and people focused. So that's I really like that. Yeah.
It has. I tell people there's no subject off limits. We'll just be honest about everything. There's no political correctness in my discussions with people. We deal with, people's decisions have consequences.
Right. Yeah.
So we approach it that way. And so my claim to fame for my candidates is that I will force them to think about things no one else has asked them to think about.
Okay.
We will have discussions that are uncomfortable, but I've never had anyone say, I don't want to talk about that, or I don't want to answer that, or I don't want to address that. That's never happened.
Can you give an
example? I've done this almost 3,000 times. What's that?
Can you give an example of something a question you've asked someone that no one else had asked, or something that just was you thought might be an uncomfortable conversation?
Sure. Actually, when I say discomfort, what I mean here is things that I don't want anyone to feel foolish that they hadn't thought of it yet. And without getting too personal, these are inevitably common sense questions that will come out. But, can you be the first one in the state of a business proven multiple times 3 states over? Or do you need to be, or would you rather be the last one in the market where everyone else is doing great,
right?
But you're taking the last available territory, which says something.
Right.
No, do you want comfort or do you want scalability?
Right.
Do you want to work with blue collar or white collar? What days of the week, what hours of the week is this not going to work for you? How long can you go at zero income from your business? Because it's going to happen. What is the support or lack thereof of your spouse? How is this going to affect your kids at home, who you actually told me you want to see?
Right. Those are really good questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Can a person, I've even asked them, can a person who looks like you in the state you're in go in and generate business on a B2B basis? And this gentleman thought about it for half a minute and he said no. And that was the direction he felt he wanted to go, frankly.
Right.
And so I was able to in his response, use that to have him focus more so on an opportunity that was going to be far more beneficial to him, rather than just something that he was comfortable with while working under the flag of a corporation.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's we won't go into depth on this either, but I do mentorship for mortgage note investors, people who want to learn how to scale their mortgage note investing business from an active investing standpoint. And that's why I don't take the approach of here's your course or here, and that courses are fine. I've taken courses, training is good. There needs to be some structure, and there are a lot of principles that can apply across the board. But at the end of the day, I need to have that multiple conversations with the person to understand where they're coming from and where they're trying to go. And because otherwise I don't know. I mean, the best way I can help you might be to say, you shouldn't be in mortgage note investing and there are many niches within our space that I can kind of help focus and direct them. And that's why we do it that way. It's a one-on-one approach. And it's because I don't like the one size fits all advice that the gurus put out there. And this is what worked for everyone, what works for everyone, because this is what allegedly worked for me. So I love that.
Everyone's different. Everyone's body is different. Everyone's mind is different.
Absolutely. And your experience, what you bring to the table and where you're trying to go, I don't know what, how would I know that? Unless we get to know each other a little bit. So today, I mean, I'm going to ask you about your kind of typical client avatar who you work with, but before we get there, what does your business look like? Again, as comfortable as you are in sharing, but revenue wise, or what does it look like to this year?
Yeah, I typically now I want to help 100 people a year.
Okay.
Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a few less. But if I can help 100 people a year, and realistically 20 to 30 of those are going to reach enthusiastic fruition, is what we call it.
Okay. All right.
Okay, meaning and the reason I say that is because the other 70 or 80 will drop out for any reason under the sun. that we can think of. And that's not a derogatory statement.
Right.
It could be a family issue. It could be a financial issue. It could be an income issue. It could be a credit issue. It could be anything along the way. It could be two friends told them the same negative comment about something that 50 other people have reflected very positively on.
Right.
This is something where when people go from where they are to where they claim they want to be, it doesn't matter. They won't do it unless they have a compelling emotional reason to make that change. And sometimes in this process, and it's on purpose, people realize they don't have a compelling emotional reason to make things work or to make a change.
Which is good information, right? It's good
It's
to learn.
fantastic. If we can get that sooner, the better, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So we live in reality, and by, typically it's 2 to 3 people a month are making that decision where it's informed. They know the pluses that they're going to catalyze. They know the behaviors they're going to exude and avoid. They know the challenges they're going to have to overcome or avoid. And they've talked with people in that system, in that franchise system, who are very much like them.
Yeah.
Who overcame it. And the question comes down to, am I ready, willing, and able to exude those behaviors on a daily basis? And if so, you might become an owner. And if not, you might not.
So, and all the caveats exist here of every situation is different. Every franchise is different, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We know that going into this question I'm about to ask you, but, what does your typical client avatar look like? What does the process in a 1 to 2 minutes, what are we working with here? Well, how does the process work? You work with potential franchise owners, correct? And you find them a potential franchise for them to buy. It sounds like. How does the process work, and what does the kind of the client avatar look like?
Sure. We can do that in a quick way, looking at both sides first. For a franchisor to grow, they're going to advertise in all these different ways. And for every 100 names they have on the internet or the phone, they might find a buyer.
Okay.
They might find 10 or 15 who fit. They won't even return phone calls to 70% of them. But of the other 30%, they might find 1 or 2 who fit and take them through the process. On the candidate side, they're looking at 4,300 brands in 80 different industries. It is overwhelming. I have had people come to me who've, quote, been looking for 5 years or more.
Wow.
So my question is, what are you looking for that you haven't found? So what does Matt Stevens do? Well, the franchisor wants to work with me and the candidate wants to work with me if, one, we realize and acknowledge half of the franchises out there, I don't know anyone who wants to get into.
Right.
Okay. However, there are some fantastic ones. And that's where we focus. I focus on the top 7% of opportunities out there.
Okay.
On the candidate side, we come in and I understand them on 2.5 dozen ownership criteria, from the obvious to the important. So we speak of that candidly. Their mind has to be right. Their money has to be right. Their emotional objective and goal, their compelling emotional reason has to exist. And with that, within a week, we can take these 4,300 brands and knock them down to the few that might suit this person the best.
Okay.
Given all of their criteria, part-time, full-time, skill sets, likes and dislikes, etc. And so what I do is I share with them why that small group now exists that they should consider. We talk about it, and then I guide them through the research process, which frankly takes anywhere from 3 to 10 weeks. It's not overnight. It's not short. Okay. Highly educational, and somewhere in there they're going to say yes or no to everything.
Got it. All right. No, that was very thorough and yet pretty succinct. So that was quite good. So, and I know this probably might be a red flag for you if somebody calls you and asks this question, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the least amount of time and least amount of money that I need to have available to get into franchising?
Wow, that's a great question. Okay. I like to see at least 50 to 75,000 liquidity. And a net worth of 200,000 minimum helps.
Okay.
On the high side, we can easily get into 300,000 or greater, but it's surprising. A lot of folks think they need hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
I
would have guessed that too. Okay.
Yeah. They can use 5 figures and borrow the rest if they have a credit score of at least 680. Okay. On the least amount of time, that will vary tremendously, only because you and I both know people. One person can get it done in 30 hours, another one takes 80.
True. That's
However,
true.
there are legitimate options that once you get them set up, it's 5 to 10 hours a week, realistically, but that usually means you're leveraging money rather than time.
Right.
And that requires a lot of money.
Right.
On the lower end, if you can leverage your time, if you can invest your time, then you can go down the investment financial scale.
Okay.
So on the time side, if you're investing lower amounts of money, chances are you're investing more hours.
Right. That makes sense.
So the folks with the big money can keep it at 5 or 10 hours a week. The folks with typical money, you're looking at 20 to 50 hours a week, depending on the outcomes you want to achieve.
Got it. Now that makes a lot of sense. So before we move on to some rapid fire questions, stepping away from the franchise specific discussion, you're someone who obviously is plugged into many different industries and many, different types of business models, et cetera. What has changed in the last 3 to 5 years? And take out your crystal ball. Nobody knows, right? But if you were a betting man, what types of industries would you say are going to thrive, and which ones are going to suffer with maybe AI in the background, et cetera?
Yeah, some folks look, a lot of candidates who reach out to me are looking for, let's say, AI or tech opportunities, and because that's where their history has been. And frankly, the challenge with that is someone who might be an expert in tech. The question is, how are you going to generate revenue?
Yeah.
And it usually requires a salesperson. And usually that tech person isn't the best salesperson or has never even done it.
Right. Yes.
So we look at businesses where there's recurring revenue, or, I like businesses where you can either create a recurring revenue or you can have a seemingly endless supply of one-off hits, where the customer may not need to see you again for 10 years, but all you have to do is show better than the other 2 people they called.
Got it.
And those are typically service businesses. So in the retail side, retail has been hit heavy with Amazon and so forth.
Yeah.
There are still some great franchises out there in retail, but the number is shrinking.
Yeah.
Pets still need to eat. You and I still need to eat, et cetera.
Right.
But yeah, the places that leverage AI but aren't necessarily into it are going to do real well. There's always a need for services to property and people.
Yeah. So it's the trades like electrical, HVAC, plumbing, but then if they can bring in AI and technical, expertise, that's even better. Is that true?
Yeah, to help them run that business. And there's always going to be a need for healthcare, for wellness,
right.
Human longevity. That seems to be a real growing market right now.
For sure. Yeah.
And seniors. The booming generation is getting to that age where they're really not taking care of themselves entirely, but they don't want to go to a home where, they're spending $12,000 a month. Yeah. So they're going to do it in the place they're familiar with, in their houses. And there are services of all kinds to satisfy that need.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah, so there's still plenty of need out there. There's a ton of money for someone who just wants to go get it. And frankly, you can be in an industry where there's 40 competitors. You just need to be better than 1 or 2 of the other people that solicitor reaches out to.
Right. All right. You ready for some rapid fire questions, Matt?
Give me your best.
All right. What's one thing that people misunderstand about you personally?
I don't know as I've ever asked them that question.
Yeah, this is one that trips people up. You wanted my best, and
I guess we did get that. I don't need them to buy a franchise.
Okay, yeah,
we're going to eat steak whether they buy or not. So
I like that.
I'm okay. My daughters are going to be fine.
Yeah,
I don't need anyone to buy. And I tell them, if you ever feel that I'm selling, you tell me and I'll stop. I've never had anyone tell me that.
That's good. That's a good answer. I like that.
So,
if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Don't date the blonde.
Nice.
It would be, I don't know as I'd change a whole lot there. Frankly, it would be keep in touch with the people who brought you there more often.
Okay. That's good.
Because you're not going to do anything alone.
I like that. It's a team sport. If you were given $10 million tomorrow, Matt, no strings attached, Doesn't have to be business related. What would you do with it?
Oh, great question. I would, frankly, I'd put part of it into I'd send a little bit to my alma mater. I'd pick a few resources, probably in pets and other areas, to donate to, and I'd get a little place that I have my eye on the lake.
Love it. What's your alma mater? What school?
Oh, I have a prep school in Connecticut, and I went to colleges in North Carolina and Florida.
Got it.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
All right. What is a challenge that you're facing in your business right now?
The social culture of deciding that it's perfectly okay to schedule someone's time and ghost.
I cannot stand that. I mean, it is, and I know we had to reschedule this call, and I appreciate your flexibility, but I absolutely agree with you. It is baffling to me that you just don't show up and never apologize, never acknowledge, and it happens quite frequently. So I know personally I've gotten a little more, what is this call for? What, just because even if they do show up, why are we, is this a waste of time? But just so many examples I could give of people just literally not showing up. So yeah, it sounds like you've had some recent, somewhat painful experiences as well.
I've been on the phone with people since 1988. And there has been a marked shift in just, it's all about me, and
right.
I don't do that,
Right.
And if it's 10 or 15 minutes out of my schedule that someone took, okay,
sure.
Right. But if it's an hour and a half, just let me know in advance that you can't make it. But that has changed, and it's changed for contractors as well. This is why if you schedule an HVAC appointment, you're going to get 6 texts and phone calls before they ever show up, because they want to know you're going to be there.
Right. That's true. That's a good point.
And so, I'd love for that to change. I'd also love, there's a big thing now with people who, they don't read a whole lot. They love video. They just don't read a whole lot. And I don't know where that's going to take society, but we're all in it together, and we got to figure something out. Yeah.
And it also does create an opportunity where if you do what you say you're going to do, you're automatically in the top 10%. So what? Follow through and do what you say you're going to do. Wow, you're an amazing. You deliver on your results.
Just show up and you can be number one. It's amazing.
Right. So, I agree with you there. What would you say is something controversial that you see in your industry, in the franchise space? Something that you don't agree with, or something that's a little shady, so to speak?
Sure. There's been a move, words mean things. And so bad people sometimes attach themselves to words that don't translate to whom they are, but they're using the word. So carry along. Okay. And so in the last 2 years, there was a big push for, I even forget the term now, responsible franchising or something like that. And, the folks most throwing that around were the ones that needed to, and I never needed to. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So that's the only downside, and I don't believe any franchisor is intrinsically bad. There are some franchise systems out there, not some. There's a lot of franchise systems who don't, quote, deliver for the franchisee, not out of malice, but either they just haven't figured it out. And that's part of the reason for due diligence by a candidate. That's why you got to ask the critical questions. And that's why people come to me. Right. Is so we can differentiate between those two groups, and they don't have to waste 50 hours figuring that out on their own.
Right. Sure,
but they're not malicious by intent. You got to figure it out. That's what research is for. And it's mandated by every candidate.
Makes a lot of sense. How has we touched on this in the beginning, but how has financial abundance made your life better?
Oh, it's an ease and a peace. If you work with anyone of any kind who's talking with you about their expertise, and you sense that they need you to do some business with them, I haven't felt that way in many, many years. And I do think it comes through just by nature. I think it comes through. Right. The fact that when someone talks with me where it's just like, hey, we're going to do this for you, or we're not going to do it at all. We're going to do it the right way, or we're not going to do it at all. Pick and choose. Do you want to work with me or not? That's a wonderful place to be in. Right. And absolutely. I think my candidates feel that too. And I've had one person get 4 different businesses with me. I've had another person get 3. Okay. It's just, they know franchising, yet they keep coming back to the well to say, I want to save 150 hours, Matt. Where should I look? And we have that conversation. So that's a real place of comfort for me. And again, there's so much money out there. You just gotta find the right spot and go grab it.
Got it. What is a book or two that you would recommend to our listeners who are real estate investors and business owners?
Sure. Atomic Habits is a book I send to every person I place.
Great book. It is really good.
I don't think it's, there's nothing, there's so many of these theories and so forth and practices where when you read through it, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense, but you weren't going to come up with it on your own.
Right.
I think that's what Atomic Habits is. We are all a reflection of our habits, and your success is a reflection of your habits. And if you put a system in place and just behave in that way, chances are you're going to get great results. Another one is called The Four Agreements.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Short little book, lovely book. It always gets your head, me anyway, it always gets my head straight if I'm struggling or.
I actually bought a little wall plaque or whatever it's called, a placard that has the Four Agreements written on it, just because it's a fantastic book. And just on Atomic Habits, and just not, I just recently learned about there's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and this is a whole tangent for sure, but apparently a large bit of that was fraudulent, and people can research this, but not that your thoughts don't matter. Certainly your thoughts do matter and can affect behavior and then therefore patterns and results. But I love the practical approach of Atomic Habits, and because I think people can almost use that Think and Grow Rich type of mentality as an excuse to do nothing and just manifest, and then that's fine. And again, thoughts do matter, but I just think that at the end of the day, yes, there's a lot we can't control. There are a lot of circumstances that occur that are completely outside of your control and my control, but it really is the patterns of our behavior over years and years and years that produce the results and most of the circumstances that we live in. So I love that recommendation. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jamie. I mean, I emphasize with everyone in my writing and as often as I can in conversation, right? Life is a social game, and your results are behavior driven 100% of the time. And you have to play on that field or else you're going to get left behind.
Couldn't agree more. So Matt Stevens, where can our listeners reach out to you?
Sure. You go to my website, which is heisthefranchiseguy.com. Heisthefranchiseguy.com. And I'm all over that. And I would love to hear from you. You can call my phone number there. You can email me, text me, and we just have candid discussion and go from there.
Perfect. Before we end the episode here, Matt, what's one question that I have not asked that you wish I had?
Oh, Jamie, you've got some good ones.
Anything we haven't covered?
Well, yeah, I asked that at the end of my consultations. What's next?
Yeah, that's a good that's a good one. All right. Well, if you think of something, maybe we'll have to have you back on and address that. So,
very good.
No, I think this has been really good. I like the fact that we sometimes paint real estate in I don't even want to say in a bad light or show it in a bad light, but just the reality of it. People can absolutely lose money with real estate, and there are other opportunities out there for sure. And I just really enjoyed this conversation, Matt. I really liked your no nonsense approach, and that you're people focused, and it sounds like you're focused on the quality of the relationship versus the transaction. And, I think you're adding a lot of value to people both. It sounds like across the country, really. So thanks a lot for your time. Any final thoughts from you, Matt?
Yeah. Hey, I work in all 50 states, and there's another book out there called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And I think that's what I was thinking of as you were saying.
Okay.
It's absolutely, you deal in reality and you can figure this thing out. If you're misleading or fearful of sharing something, it's just not going to work in any situation. You got to put the cards on the table and go from there.
I'll have to check that one out. I haven't read that book, so thanks for the suggestion. All right, Matt, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And
Jamie, thanks so much.
to the listener, thank you for spending your most valuable resource with us, and that is your time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on From Adversity to Abundance. We hope today's episode has equipped you with valuable insights and practical advice to elevate your real estate journey. For more inspiring stories and resources, visit us at www.adversitytoabundance.com. If this episode has inspired you, please share it with a friend who could also benefit from our conversation. Together, let's turn adversity into abundance. Until next time, keep building your mental fitness and your real estate empire.